Alex never expected excitement in his work. He was just one human among countless alien species in the Galactic Council, a sprawling interstellar bureaucracy that governed treaties, trade, and peace agreements across thousands of star systems. Most days, he sat in a dim corner of the records division, cataloging files and data entries that hardly anyone else glanced at. But he was good at his job and took pride in making sure every record was meticulously accurate. One evening, as Alex worked overtime, he noticed something odd. While cross-referencing a few recent treaties between the Darvii Confederation and the Tauran League, he found a small discrepancy. A clause had been duplicated in two separate treaties, but slightly altered in wording. At first glance, it seemed like a harmless error, the kind of mistake that happened when alien secretaries shuffled files across departments. But as he scrutinized the language, Alex's stomach dropped. This duplicated clause, if left unchecked, could create a legal loophole so enormous that it could unravel entire alliances. The Darvii and the Tauran, two powerful and often competitive factions, would interpret this clause differently. A simple misunderstanding might escalate into accusations, sanctions, and ultimately war. Alex quickly realized that the error's implications could lead to devastation across entire star systems. He immediately tried to report it. Summoning his courage, he marched up to his supervisor, an Osnix named Xyler, who looked like a mix between a lizard and a jellyfish. Xyler had barely acknowledged Alex's existence since his arrival. "Sir, I found an issue in the Tauran Darvii treaties," Alex began, holding up his report. "If we don't correct this, it could lead to a serious diplomatic crisis." Xyler barely glanced at the report before waving a gelatinous hand dismissively. "You humans are so quaint," he said, a thin tendril curling in mild amusement. "You don't really understand the complexity of intergalactic governance. I'm sure it's nothing, but this clause, it could mean open conflict." Alex insisted. "Just give me 5 minutes. I can explain." "Enough human," Xyler said, a glint of annoyance in his pupil-less eyes. "You're overstepping. Go back to your records. We have systems in place for these things." Alex watched as Xyler dismissed him without a second glance, the report slipping from his hands, ignored on Xyler's desk. But Alex couldn't shake the feeling gnawing at his gut. He returned to his station, frustrated and humiliated, yet even more determined. A memory surfaced, one of his father telling him that being human meant seeing things in ways others didn't. And right now, that meant standing up when no one else would. If the council wouldn't listen to him, he'd find another way. He wasn't about to let his report sit and collect dust, not when entire civilizations hung in the balance. Taking a deep breath, he mentally braced himself for what was sure to be a grueling journey. Fixing this error meant navigating a maze of approvals, documentation, and alien officials who thought of him as an overambitious anomaly. But Alex was ready for whatever they threw at him. Steeling himself, he set out with nothing more than his knowledge of council procedures and an iron will. Alex knew he was in for a challenge, but he hadn't imagined just how complex the Galactic Council's bureaucracy truly was. The moment he filed his first formal request to escalate the issue, he was inundated with forms to fill out, each requiring cross-referencing with obscure protocols. Council regulations required endless confirmations and counter-signatures, and each one felt designed to wear down even the most dedicated. At his first stop, he spoke with an Assyrian clerk whose tentacles moved lazily over a holographic screen. She eyed Alex with an expression that was almost condescending as she processed his request. "Ah, human," she murmured. "Your request will require authorization code Z47. I'm afraid only the Department of Interstellar Compliance can issue those. You'll need to visit them on level 17. Alex forced a smile, thanked her, and made his way to level 17. When he reached the Department of Interstellar Compliance, a tired-looking Archon with 3 shimmering eyes informed him that no, his form needed to be verified by the Department of Legal Translations first. And thus, the cycle began. Every department redirected him to another, each requiring yet another form or a different approval. Hours turned into days, and Alex's patience was tested with every encounter. In the Department of Record Security, he met a Hernak with an exoskeleton that clicked as he moved. The Hernak snorted at Alex's request, dismissing it as trivial. "You humans," he scoffed, "always sticking your noses where they don't belong. Let the council specialists handle council matters." He then pushed Alex's request back at him, advising he leave complex intergalactic matters to the experts. But not everyone was hostile. After a few more frustrating encounters, Alex met a Morani clerk with soft, iridescent fur who actually listened. She observed his determination and, while unable to help directly, whispered that some of the council's archives in the lower levels contained unfiltered records and logs that might help him bypass the endless bureaucracy. "I shouldn't be telling you this," she said, glancing around, "but if you want a chance at getting this resolved, try Archive Unit 42. Taking her advice, Alex found his way to the dusty, dimly lit Archive Unit 42. Here, amid stacks of outdated records and ancient data crystals, he finally started piecing together a paper trail. As he worked, he noticed a pattern. The error wasn't a mere oversight. The same clause had been subtly modified across multiple treaties, always in ways that benefited specific factions. These modifications were subtle but consistent, and always in records approved by the same few council members. A sinking feeling took hold. This was no accident. Someone had gone to great lengths to engineer these clauses, laying the groundwork for diplomatic tensions between powerful factions. If those factions went to war, certain council members would gain influence over lucrative trade routes and strategic territories. The realization hit him hard. Someone within the council, or at least with access to high-level records, had been manipulating treaties to spark conflict for their own gain. Armed with this discovery, Alex's mission transformed. He was no longer just trying to fix a bureaucratic error. He was uncovering a conspiracy. The task was daunting, but his resolve only grew. He knew that without undeniable proof, no one would listen to him. But now, he had a direction. He would keep digging one record and one department at a time until he had enough evidence to bring the truth to light. With each passing day, Alex's focus sharpened, his mission becoming more than just a bureaucratic correction. He knew that if he wanted to reveal the truth, he would have to dig deeper than he ever had before, and that meant taking serious risks. In the quiet hours of the night, when most council employees had left, he would slip into off-limits archive sections and access encrypted files that were far above his clearance level. He was well aware that if caught, he could lose his position, or worse. Piece by piece, he uncovered a complex web of shady dealings. He found evidence of backroom agreements between certain council members and powerful conglomerates, with the clauses he discovered serving as triggers for a series of conflicts. If a misunderstanding between the Darvii Confederation and the Tauran League escalated into war, these council members would control a vast swath of territory and gain access to resources that were currently outside their jurisdiction. They had camouflaged their schemes behind accidental errors in records, relying on the vast bureaucracy to keep anyone from noticing. Alex's discoveries weighed heavily on him. This wasn't just a few misplaced words in treaties. It was a carefully orchestrated plot. Some of the most influential beings in the galaxy were using the Council's own records as tools of manipulation, with entire star systems caught in the crossfire. He spent sleepless nights compiling everything into a comprehensive report, filling it with evidence, manipulated treaties, modified clauses, and the connection to powerful interest groups. When he finished, it was a damning document that left no room for doubt. But before he could submit his report, the council acted. One morning, he arrived at his desk only to find his access to the archives revoked. Security protocols barred him from the lower levels, and guards now stationed at certain entrances watched him with suspicion. Rumors swirled that the council had discovered a security breach, and Alex knew they were onto him. Worse, he was reassigned to menial tasks, effectively silenced and contained. Yet he refused to give up. Over the past few weeks, he had made a few unlikely allies, those who had seen his struggle and believed in his dedication to the truth. Among them was Riva, the Morani clerk who had first pointed him toward Archive Unit 42, and Tarek, a Grentorian technician who had grown disillusioned with the Council's power plays. Together, they formed a small but determined group committed to exposing the conspiracy. They knew that if they acted too openly, the Council would squash them, so they operated in secret, sharing information in hidden channels and avoiding the Council's increasingly watchful eye. With his allies' help, Alex began smuggling his report and evidence up to the highest chambers of the Council. They bypassed official channels, aware that any formal submission would be blocked or erased. It was a tense, dangerous effort, with every exchange feeling like a test of trust and courage. Riva used her position in records to slip Alex into restricted areas, while Tarek bypassed security systems to make sure Alex's encrypted data could reach the inner circle of the Council chambers. The night before the Council was set to discuss the Torin-Darvii relations, Alex and his group completed their final move. They uploaded his report directly to the Council's secure network, ensuring that it would appear in the documents distributed for the session. There was no turning back now. If the Council didn't take it seriously, their fate and the fate of countless civilizations could be sealed. As the Council members gathered, Alex took a hidden position just outside the chamber, bracing himself for whatever would come next. He knew that, one way or another, his actions had set into motion a confrontation that could shake the Galactic Council to its core. The Council chamber was packed. Council members from every corner of the galaxy filled the hall, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, irritation, and indifference. Most of them knew there had been a last-minute addition to the agenda, something about a treaty discrepancy. Few gave it much thought. After all, the Galactic Council was riddled with minor errors and corrections. But as the session began, the Council was presented with Alex's report. A heavy silence fell over the room as his evidence appeared on the holographic screens for all to see. Treaties altered and clauses duplicated, each one creating a web of miscommunication that pointed toward inevitable conflict. A calculated trail of mistakes designed to turn allies into enemies. The details of the corruption, the direct links to Council officials and private interests, all of it laid bare, irrefutable and damning. At the Council's request, Alex himself was called forward to answer questions. As he stood in the center of the chamber, dozens of alien eyes fixed on him, some hostile, others skeptical. A few members scoffed outright, exchanging glances and whispers. The idea that a human, a low-level clerk, could have uncovered a conspiracy that evaded the scrutiny of high-ranking officials seemed ridiculous to them. But there was no denying the evidence he'd presented. One of the Council leaders, a towering Koresh with an imposing mane of scales and spines, spoke first. "Human, do you have any explanation for how you uncovered this so-called conspiracy?" Our experts reviewed these records without incident. Alex held his ground, his voice steady but firm. "With all due respect, I think that's the problem. Your experts are so accustomed to the system that they don't see the flaws in it. I simply noticed something that didn't add up and followed it, piece by piece." For a moment, there was a stir in the chamber. The Council members who had scoffed quieted as they glanced at the evidence again. The leader of the Council, a solemn-faced seraph with silver-gray skin, looked down at Alex with reluctant respect. "You risked everything, including your position, to bring this forward." "Why?" "Because lives were at stake," Alex replied simply. "I couldn't just stand by and let this happen. Humanity may not be as advanced as other species, but that doesn't mean we don't understand the value of peace." A ripple of surprise went through the chamber. Council members shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the courage and integrity in his words. After a tense silence, the Council erupted into debate. Accusations flew across the room as officials implicated in the scandal attempted to defend themselves, while others demanded a full investigation. The atmosphere was electric as the Council clashed over how to proceed, but Alex's evidence left them with no choice. In the end, The council leaders voted unanimously to launch an immediate investigation, promising that those responsible would face justice. As Alex left the chamber, he heard whispers following him. Words like audacious, persistent, and unexpectedly brilliant echoed through the halls. Though the council members were reluctant to admit it openly, the story of the human who saved the galaxy began to circulate. His bravery and resilience made him a quiet legend, an example of humanity's unexpected strength within the galactic order. Aliens who had once dismissed him as insignificant now looked at him with a glimmer of respect. And though he never sought recognition, he knew he had made a lasting impact on the Galactic Council, proving that sometimes it took just one determined person to save countless lives.